We've tried multiple different watering systems for our chickens, and it took us quite a while to figure out what's gonna work best for us. Some of them just kind of made a mess, and we had the whole bottom of the chicken coop just kind of covered in water. With other ones, we had to refill them twice a day, and that gets pretty frustrating pretty quickly. And it really just, it took some time to dial it in to figure out what's gonna work best for us. What we ended up landing on that's worked best for us for about the last year and a half or so are these little chicken nipples right here. That's what I'm gonna call them, is chicken nipples. These little chicken nipples right here. We've tried a couple different variations of this same exact thing. For instance, this one right here, I'm not sure what brand this one is. This is kind of what most of them look like. They have a threaded bottom right here. They have just the typical, you know, chicken nipple thing right there. And there's nothing really that wrong with these ones, but I will say after about a year or so, they start leaking and kind of giving you issues there. But with these ones, they have a little wing nut on the back that holds everything together really well as a little rubber seal. And that rubber seal and the wing nut together really make for some longevity out of these. Now, this isn't a sponsored video or anything like that. This is something that I truly did just kind of search out and buy for myself and realize that it's pretty amazing. If you're interested in possibly purchasing some of these, there's a link in the description below. You can find them right there. But these little chicken nipples are by far the cleanest option we found. We've never had anything leak out of them. When you compare these, not just to other, you know, chicken nipples, but if you compare, you know, like the dishwaters with a little thing on top that you fill up and tip it upside down, I'll throw a picture of it somewhere. But if you compare it to those, the chickens kind of splash around in there and make a really big mess. You end up getting more water on the floor than you do inside your chickens. Yeah, with these, they'll drip here and there, but it doesn't really make that big of a mess. You can utilize these a whole lot of different ways. With us, we use 5-gallon buckets, just like this one here. This one's a Home Depot one, but I think in the coop right now we have a Lowe's one. It doesn't really matter what kind of bucket, but a 5-gallon bucket works great. The biggest thing for me with a 5-gallon bucket is it's not such a big container that the water gets kind of dirty and nasty. With this, it's just big enough to last them about 2 or 3 days before needing to refill it with water. And what that does is it's giving them a constant supply of fresh water. Well, constant every 2 or 3 days. But when you go any bigger than this and it's to where you have to only refill it once a month or once every few weeks, that's okay. But in my opinion, I don't really like that, because I like to have nice fresh water for my chickens. And if it's sitting in a big container out in the sun or in your hot coop or anything like that, that water kind of goes stagnant and kind of gets gross, and I'm just not a fan of that. I want some nice fresh water for my chickens every few days. You can go smaller than 5 gallons. You can go with just a 3-gallon bucket or something about that size. You can also go, like I said, you can go much bigger, and you can go with like a barrel, and you can connect these to the barrels, or you can run PVC pipes out of the barrels and down into the coop, and just all sorts of really cool things. These things are just extremely versatile and really just give you a whole lot of different options. Now, as far as us only having to refill these buckets about every 2 or 3 days, keep in mind that that's with 6 chickens. So if you have more chickens, it's gonna be different. If you have less chickens, it's gonna be different. Just kind of keep in mind, we have 6 chickens. That's kind of the rate of which those chickens drink this water. Assembling these is extremely easy. Right out of the bag, you get your little chicken nipple, you get a little rubber seal there, you get a wing nut. It comes with instructions, it comes with a drill bit. Literally all you need to do is have a drill. A drill would be helpful. When you're getting ready to decide where to drill your holes, kind of keep in mind where your bucket or container is going to be. If it's going to be sitting directly on the floor, you don't want to have your nipples down at the very bottom of that bucket, because then your chickens are going to be hunched over trying to get to those nipples, and they're not really going to be able to make it. If you put it up on something, like for us, we have ours on a couple of cinder blocks, so it brings it up, and we can still put our nipples down there towards the bottom of the bucket. But what you do need to think about then is you need to make sure that you don't put it so far down that you can't spin your wing nut onto the back of this. The first time we did this, I put it right there towards the bottom of the bucket, and then when I went to put the little wing nut on the back of it, I couldn't spin the wing nut. I didn't give myself enough room, and I had to start all over again. So just make sure you're giving yourself enough room to put that on. You can also hang these from the ceiling, and you can put it vertical, so you can put it straight into the bottom of a bucket, and then you can hang it so the chickens are just looking straight up and pecking it that way. And along with that, you want to look at, depending on where your container is going to be placed, if it's coming straight from the ceiling and you have a full 360 degrees around it, you can drill your holes all the way around it. For us, we have ours kind of tucked away in a corner, and we hang it off of those cinder blocks, so we can only use about half of the bucket, the half that hangs over the cinder blocks, so we are only putting holes right there. So definitely keep those types of things in mind when you're getting ready to drill your holes. After you've drilled your holes, it's pretty smart to maybe take some sandpaper or something similar and just kind of clean up those holes, because you want to make sure you have a really good seal when you go to put your nipples in. Now, another really important thing, this might sound silly to some of you, but it's easy to forget, trust me. I have forgotten before. Sometimes these seals come in the bag and not on the actual nipple itself. So make sure that your seal is actually on your nipple and it's not in the bag somewhere. That's very important. So once you verify your seal's on, go ahead and start placing your nipples into those holes, and you kind of have to thread them in. So even though the hole isn't a threaded hole, you still have to kind of thread those nipples in. So tighten those down all the way into that hole before you start putting on your wing nut. Hey, if you've been getting value from this video, give it a big hydrated chicken thumbs up and share it with all your friends. That really helps out our channel a lot. Once you've got all your nipples in, all your wing nuts on, everything like that, the next thing is making sure that it's watertight and you don't have any leaks. Fill your bucket or your container up with water, let it sit there for a minute, and make sure everything's sitting how it's supposed to. And I think one of the most important things that not really a whole lot of people talk about is your chickens have never seen these before. They don't understand what a chicken watering nipple is. They have no idea how to use it, and so you kind of have to teach them how to use it. At first, when you put your bucket or your container into your coop, you kind of have to show the chickens where that water's coming from. So kind of bring your chickens over to the bucket, maybe fill the bucket up in there so that way they see that water is going into the bucket, and then maybe poke the nipples a little bit to drain some water so they can see that water's coming out of the bucket and that you have to push that little button to make it come out. Chickens are much smarter than people think, and it shouldn't take them too long to learn how to do this, but don't expect them just to learn how to do it on their own or to know exactly what these are, because they most likely have never seen these before. Be patient with them, show them how to do it, work with them, and I promise you they'll learn pretty quickly. Aside from having good access to water, the next thing your chickens are going to need is some good access to food. So watch this video right here where I make a DIY chicken feeder. This feeder holds about 3 bags of food. So it takes them a few weeks to eat it down. It's all automatic. You don't have to worry about anything after you dump it in, and then once it's empty, you dump some more in. It's extremely easy, it's cheap, and it's easy to do, so watch that video right here.